And what's surprising to me is that there seems to be a community divided within the own Jewish community. You have some people who are about being isolationists, which is something we'll get into later, and don't necessarily support this. And then you got guys like conservative pundit Mark Levin, who I know that you know a thing or two about. You know, I know him. I've known him for years. And he is fixated on this. He believes that America should be involved. He believes that Iran is evil and that they need to be wiped off the face of this earth. And that essentially the threats that they've made, not just to Israel, but death to America as well, justifies the kind of things that we have been seeing. Do you have, do you take that into consideration when you're giving your thoughts?
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that the public needs to recognize is this intentional conflation, and it's completely wrong, of Israel, the foreign nation, which is being led up by Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu, and Jewish people. That would be an absolute nonsense if I sat here and I said, well, whatever happens in Nigeria, it means that if you critique the Nigerian government, that you're somehow against black people in America. We would all say that's nonsense. But they have been very successful in this idea that if you critique what is happening in the Middle East and what actions are being led by Bibi Netanyahu's government, radical government, then you're somehow anti-Semitic. So it shouldn't surprise you to see that many Jewish people have taken to the streets. Not only Jewish people, by the way, Israelis, because as we know, even in America, you can be an American and not support what the government is doing. I am not supporting right now the decisions that are being made by the Trump campaign as it pertains to Middle Eastern policy. But they have a disagreement. You have Israelis taking to the street, boycotting, protesting Bibi Netanyahu. And similarly, you have Jewish people who recognize that there has been this wrong conflation, as if all Jewish people agree with the nonstop campaign of bombing in the Middle East, which has essentially been in effect since 1948, since the creation of Israel as a nation. And so I'm not conflicted or confused about what's happening. I find it to be as disingenuous as attaching, well, if you critique Black Lives Matter as an organization, this means that you're critiquing all Black people. No, it doesn't. It doesn't mean that whatsoever. I'm critiquing the Israeli Prime Minister. I am critiquing their actions, really their actions which have began since 1948. The more that I become educated about the topic, it has always been this despicable. It has always been a campaign of burning, of carpet bombing and theft, stealing lands. And when people notice what they're doing, they say, well, you can't say that because of anti-Semitism. That's ridiculous. Okay. You know how I feel about this, especially as someone who's been called an Uncle Tom and a coon for critiquing things that were happening within the Black community. I am not going to respond to name calling. I'm going to respond to the facts. And the facts are what Bibi Netanyahu is doing in the Middle East is a terrorist campaign.